Hey everybody, Bob Chick, along with David Bay, back for another installment of The Last Rep. And David, breaking news right here on The Last Rep. This is big, brother. Everybody knows the Olympia Amateur was added to the Olympia this year for the very first time.
Yes,
but
sir.
I hear there's some breaking news today, brother.
Yes, I received a phone call from Robin Chang this afternoon regarding that there was vacancy for the MC spot for the Amateur Olympia. I was offered the spot and very, very graciously accepted. So as far as my short stint in the fitness industry, I would say this is the biggest thing that's come my way. So to be part of the Olympia is a huge deal, and to be MC in the amateur portion, I'm super excited. The first time it's ever come to the U.S., so I know Robin and Olympia LLC and that whole crew is looking forward to bringing it to the States, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to the competition, another pro qualifier. Although pro cards are a little bit limited at this one, but it's going to be the best of the best in the NPC and athletes from Canada and South America. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'll also be hosting some of the seminars at the Expo on Friday and Saturday with some of the guest speakers that they're having, including our good friend Dr. Victor Prisk. So
the good doctor.
I'm the good doctor, very good doctor. So I'm very excited. So a big thank you to Robin Chang and the folks at Olympia LLC and AMI for putting their trust in me to host their first time event here.
All right, don't mess it up.
Don't screw it. Bob put in a few good words.
Yeah,
for me.
Listen,
Don't screw it up.
I put myself on the short limb for this one, as you know, my brother. So now listen.
I posted an announcement on Facebook, my Instagram, and a bunch of my buddies. Hey, congratulations, good for you, and our friend Nick Trigilli, don't F it up.
No better advice is right there. But listen, man, it's a great opportunity. I'm glad you're in this position to be able to take it and obviously take full advantage of it, bro. But it's a nice foot in the door, and you want to see some production, bro. I mean, obviously, I've been doing this for many years, but it's a fantastic A1 production by Robin Chang and the Chang Gang. And I tell you what, you're not going to get a bigger platform, man. But this is cool, man. Hey, it's your foot in the door to Olympia greatness when I finally hang up the mic, bro, whenever that should be.
Somebody, I had a couple friends joking, next is the Olympia. I said, well, it might turn on that one. So.
That's all right. Hey, good stuff there, David. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Big week to get through. Tampa. This past weekend,
huge weekend in Tampa.
Huge event from Tim Gardner and his
literally
crew.
And figuratively speaking.
Yes, both. Over 200 pros. Didn't break his own record, but still over 200 pros. And, of course, he had about 300 NPC amateurs on stage. But bigger than that, all the brass was there. Sandy was there. Big Steve was there. The boss himself, Jim Mannion, actually made an appearance. And, of course, we both know why he chose this. Now, this was the 10th anniversary of Tampa, so I know Tim was stoked to have such a big turnout. Crowd was great, 40-something booths. But Jim was mainly there because Robin Chang was given the Ben Weider Lifetime Achievement Award presented by our good friend Dan Solomon on stage. Who had a great speech, and nobody more deserving than Robin Chang.
No, and Robin's taken the Olympia, which was, obviously a great production, and just really brought it to the next level. And it's something that the fans go to, and then it's one of those things where you just being in that environment without being overly dramatic is a little bit awe-inspiring, and it's a whole weekend of scenery to take in, and Robin has been an integral part of that, and probably the most important part of that, putting it all together. So what he's done for bodybuilding in the Olympia has been nothing short of fantastic, and so it was a well-deserved award for Robin.
And nobody more fitting. Now, listen. Ben Weider, obviously, for those of us who have been around, is one of the most legendary names in bodybuilding. There's Joe and Ben Weider, and then there's a whole bunch of other people. But those two guys are pretty much the core of why we're here today. And I know Robin worked many years with Ben and Joe personally, so I know this was very near and dear to him. For those who don't know, and I know Robin very well, he absolutely hates the spotlight. He's definitely a production guy.
Robin, he's a little bit shy, more behind the scenes guy. Just he wants to put it to work and not be seen as much.
Yeah. If this, I'm telling you right now, if this award did not have Ben Weider's name on it, there's no way he would have accepted it. He would have found something to do. Sorry, I can't make it. Got some stuff going on, Olympia, But no, he actually went out of his way to do that, and I appreciate that because I know Robin. Believe me, he's way happier at the production booth on a microphone, in my ear, as we're going through the Olympia and stuff. But congratulations to Robin Chang, like I say, all his efforts, and it's been great working with him all these years. You're going to love it, David. You're going to have a great time at this Olympia.
I mean, even I tell you what, obviously competition between AMI and MD when we were there, even though the MD covered the Olympia, there was still that, and Robin was always incredibly gracious to both myself and everybody at Muscular Development. And he knew that we were trying to cover the Olympia and get media out for the sport of bodybuilding to the fans. And so he's always been great to me, even from the first time I was there. And it says a lot about a person who's up here as far as power and control, when they're very welcoming and very accommodating to the people who are kind of down here, which is which just pretty much describes when I started.
Right.
So I've had the utmost respect for him since day one, but it was something that I got from him, and it's always been good experiences. So to be able to work with him and his crew, I know I'm kind of going off now, but it's a big deal for me, and I'm really excited. So.
Absolutely. So we're in Tampa.
I do. That's my thing.
So we're in Tampa over the weekend. Pretty much anybody who's anybody from the Florida area was there. I mean, there was more pros than I can even list. Everybody was there. But the lineup did not disappoint. Now, we knew going in Josh Leonardowicz was the man to beat.
Right.
We've all seen the pictures. This guy's put on 25 pounds of muscle this past year. He did not disappoint. The second he walked out, I knew it was his. It was his for the taking. Now, that said, if Josh shows up in that condition and the Olympia stage, he will be fighting for 15th. He was good, but he was not great. Now, this could have been strategy. I didn't get a chance to talk to Josh about that in particular, but if I was him or running his camp, I would have brought him in about where he was, about 90%. And listen, you can't get iron. You can't get lightning twice in a 5-week period. It's very difficult to do.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking when I saw his pictures. I saw he was definitely good enough to win, and it wasn't like his conditioning was bad.
No.
He still had some good detail, and he was massive as we had all expected, but he wasn't razor sharp. Now, anybody who's competed knows that if you have a gap about 2 weeks between a show, you can kind of hang on to the conditioning.
Sure.
A week is a little bit tricky sometimes, depending on what your strategy is with carb loading and water depletion and stuff. 2-3 weeks is doable. You start stretching out 6 weeks, it becomes a little bit tricky of a period, because if you're really going to peak for one show and another 6 weeks later, there's that kind of time frame where you can eat a little bit but not too much, because we all know how easy it is to put weight back on. So I think it was a good strategy by Josh. Josh isn't one of these guys that we usually see off, and even off for Josh is still incredible. So he's not a guy that's going to come in top 10 at the Olympia and then come back and allow himself to slip that much based on conditioning. Now, if I looked at it, where he was at, and somebody said this is somebody 6 weeks out from a show or 5 weeks out, I would say he's in a great spot,
Sure.
Which I feel like he is. And it's my understanding that he's also staying here in the U.S. for the remainder of his prep, which I think was a smart move.
Yes.
It's a day or two travel to get back to Australia, but as you know, going back and forth might only be a day or two travel there and back, but it takes about a week or two out of your body as far as getting reacclimated to the time zones.
Sure.
and back in the swing of things. So I think with Josh staying here, finishing up his prep, he's down in Florida training with Dallas and Flex Lewis. I think we're going to see the best Josh that we have at the Olympia this year.
Well, of course I'm guessing, but if Josh drops about 6 to 7 pounds for the Olympia. Now, again, things are relative, people. You got to understand something. When you're 280 pounds, okay, on stage, dropping 6-7 pounds is not a big deal. So it's I'm going to get hit up, of course, with the emails afterwards. Oh, it's 6-7 pounds. There won't be nothing left to him. Look, he ain't a middleweight. Okay, there's a big difference there. It's all relative. He dropped 6-7 into the Olympia. This guy is literally knocking on the door of the top 6. He can knock somebody out of the top 6.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we look at last year's top 6, you have Phil, you have Dexter, you have Roden, you have Ramy, you have Bonac, and you have Rulli. Now, if Rulli's a little bit off, or Bonac is a little bit off, and Josh is at 100%, I absolutely agree that he can be a top 5, top 6 guy at the Olympia. He's got a big enough frame. He's got enough muscle. He really doesn't have any weak body parts, so he's difficult to pick apart as far as his structure and being a complete bodybuilder. So, based on conditioning, he could definitely be one of those top 5, 6 guys if Rulli or Bonac slips a little, or it's not necessarily even going to take Rulli or Bonac slipping a little. If Josh comes in, just razor sharp, he could be pushing, for that top 5 or 6 spot against those guys at their best as well.
Absolutely. Second place, Mad Max Charles. Now, Max put up a hell of a fight. He was good. He was improved once again. His only issue was standing next to Jocelyn Arnowitz. This was a problem.
Yeah, we saw Max at his best earlier on this year at the Arnold. He came in looking really good again, and I think with the second place finish, earning 4 points, if what I saw was correct, I think he is in a good spot to get to the Olympia on points now, or actually is in
points,
a spot.
Yeah, that's done right now because the only show left is San Antonio next week, and they don't have men's open. So whatever the points are right now, that's it.
Yeah, so it was a really good showing for Max. Like you said, he's a phenomenal bodybuilder, and Max is doing high caliber shows. We look at Max and he's not really winning a lot of shows. You look at Max Charles, he seems like he's always in like 3rd or 4th place or something like that. Well, he's always doing really good shows and running into very stiff competition. So when we talk about Max getting 2nd or 3rd place, well, when it's at a show like the Arnold or against a competitor like Jocelyn Arnowitz, that's still a strong finish for Max.
3rd place, my man Henry Pierre Ano. Now, this is not a name a lot of people would know, but he's been coming on the last couple of years. I actually met Henry in Fort Myers, Florida, when I was living there. So this is about 4 years ago. And he actually showed up at the LA Fitness there. I don't know if he had some family there or his girl did. There was some connection there. But came up and introduced himself, and I believe he was trying to get his pro card at that point. And I can see he's a big kid. He's got a huge structure. But he looks a little thin on stage, obviously, because he's a good 6'2". Like I say, he's taller than Josh. Giant frame. But he's really filled it out well over the last couple of years. I tell you what, he does not have a long way to go to become a contender in the IFBB Pro League.
No, and I remember seeing Henry for the first time a few years ago, and obviously anybody who's been to a bodybuilding show takes one look at Henry and realizes he's got an amazing structure. The question mark was always, can he fill out his upper body a little bit more, and his legs were a little bit lagging. Well, his upper body continues to grow, but not, I wouldn't say proportionately to his legs. And that's in a good way, because his upper body's gotten bigger, but his legs have also gotten bigger, but they're catching up to his upper body, if that makes sense. It's not like his upper body's getting bigger and his legs are growing at the same pace, making for a continued level of disproportionality. So right now with him, his upper body is very impressive. His legs are getting better and better, and he's just going to keep moving up in those placings. And sometimes, when we see guys and we say, well, they need to fill out their frame. It's an easy thing as a media person to say that, or as an analyst. Oh, you just need to fill out your frame.
Right.
But it's not always that simple, and sometimes they fill it out about as much as they can to earn a pro card. And Henry's one of those guys who keeps getting bigger and bigger, but he's doing it without sacrificing any quality. So his structure is still amazing. He's got that small waist. He's one of the biggest classical looking guys that you're going to see in the IFBB, and there's some people who had questions, I know a year or so ago, as to whether Henry should switch to classic. I mean, if you've seen the guy in person, he's probably a little bit big. He's probably a little bit big for that. But he very much, out of the current crop of professional bodybuilders, he definitely has one of the more classic physiques. And if he, like you said, if he can continue to grow a little bit, that top 3, top 5 spot is someplace he's going to become very familiar with.
I predict right now, next year, he is in contention for a win somewhere on the circuit. I think he needs a good off season. He's one off season away. If he can pull a Josh and put on find a magic formula that works for him, this kid can be contending. His condition.
I mean, I tell you what, I don't know how long he's been working with Chris Aceto, but his conditioning at his shows this year has been phenomenal. I mean, he's just a total package. I mean, the guy's right there.
Well, whatever they're doing is working. Like I say, all he needs is time in the gym. Speaking of newcomers, 4th place, Abdulhani El Kahayat. Say that 3 times fast, but you better get used to these names, by the way, because they ain't easy.
He was not on my radar for finishing in the top 5, although he wasn't really, I don't think, on anybody's radar. But he looked good. I probably could have flip-flopped a few guys from the pictures that I had seen and the video I had seen underneath him, but you could definitely make an argument for him as well.
Well, one of the guys, and I'm going to skip to fifth real quick. Fifth was On Win. Now, it was great to see On finally in the mix. He was a little bit more better improved than he was at the last show, but it was more of a war of attrition when you got down on the fifth, sixth, and seventh. I don't want to skip over him, but I do want to mention one of those guys I would have possibly had in there was Rashid Oldacre, USA champion from last year.
Yeah, a little bit of buzz about Rashid online and his placing. I think a lot of people felt like he could have been as high as fourth place or even pushing a top three spot. That I don't know. It's so hard to say from pictures, and I always articulated that when I was working for MD, is that sometimes you have to be there. But I'm gonna go with some of the internet guys right now and say sometimes I feel like when something seems like so in your face, as far as Rashid's muscularity, and sometimes I feel like you don't always have to be there. But having been in that front row for a number of shows, I know that it's hard to judge, especially on conditioning, just looking at pictures. But Rashid, to me, had so much muscle, and even if he's off, I still feel like he could have been up a few spots. I know Regan Grimes has phenomenal aesthetics, and he's got great structure. Looked like Regan might have been off a little bit. I know he slipped a few spots from his previous placings. But I would have definitely had Rashid a little bit higher, just based on muscularity alone.
Yeah.
But again, not having been there, it's hard to make that call. And the one thing I will say about Rashid is, and the only, I guess, reasoning I'm gonna put behind him placing where he was, is the fact that I did see him at Nationals in 2015. And if anybody recalls, he came out on Friday night and just wowed the whole crowd with how big he was.
Oh yeah.
That was the year Sergio won. Eddie Bracamontes got his pro card that year as well. And but he was massive, and it was super impressive. But his conditioning was just nah. And then he pulled one of the biggest 180s I think I've ever seen as far as conditioning for Saturday night. And if he would have looked Friday the way he looked Saturday, I think it would have been unanimous first place. And I've never heard louder boos at any show, amateur or professional, than when Rashid got announced in fifth place.
Right.
Actually, yes, I have. The 2002 Olympia when Gunter got announced in fifth place. Loudest boos I've ever heard. But so when I think that about Rashid, it's like if he looked on stage the way he did for prejudging at Nationals in 2015, then I can understand that. You're definitely still wowed by the amount of muscle that he carries. But he lacked that night at prejudging. He lacked any real detail or separation. He was pretty good both nights at the USA's. I think he kind of handed everybody their backside at that show. But all that being said, Rashid is a guy where if he shows up razor sharp, he's winning shows, and he's going to push guys, like Max and Josh and everybody else you can list off in the IFBB if he comes in razor sharp. But he's at a level now where just size alone isn't going to do it for him.
And these other guys were good. I mean, they were not pushovers in that terms. Regan Grimes, now we talked about him on the last week. And I said then, my prediction was that you'd probably see him slip a little bit, that he was in uncharted waters, and for a rookie to go show to show like that is very difficult. And pretty much that was the case. He looked a little beat in terms of, you can tell when the body's just not popping. It's got that. First show when he came out this year, this kid was on. And he looked great. He was sharp. He was round. The muscles were popping when he was posing. You could see that he's dragging a little bit now. And again, I take my hat off to him for putting this year together in terms of picking multiple shows to go to. He made an impact. He looked great. This kid's got a great future ahead of him. Probably just one show too many, though.
Yeah, Regan's young, and he's made great progress. I've been following him for a few years now because obviously he made splashes at a pretty young age, and he just continues to make progress without sacrificing his aesthetics. And he's a smart kid. He seems to have good people surrounding him, and I think he's one of these guys who's just going to keep getting better and better and better. And much like Henry, I think once he fills out a little bit more and can really dial it in, I think Regan's going to be. He's already been, top 5 in 2 shows, just outside the top 5 in another. And I think, at the shows he's picking, he's going to be a perennial top 5, possibly top 3.
Sure.
And he could win a show next year too, depending on, how much size he's able to put in the off season. And he's a young guy. So as far as growing and putting on a little bit of muscle, It's hard to read somebody's genetics just by looking at them, but I think there's a ton of potential there, and I think we'll see a much improved and in a pretty dangerous Regan in 2018.
Well, speaking of improved, I mentioned On Win. We've mentioned him a few times as being one of those guys who's got great potential. But
Every
come
time.
game day, he just always seems to fall short. Well, he fell a little bit less short this show. He definitely was improved. On has a amazing structure. I'm going to guess he's maybe about 5'8", maybe 5'9" on a good day. Fine. He's got some of the widest shoulders I've ever seen for a guy his size, and proportionately small waist and flaring thighs. He's got all the tools. Conditioning's always been his Achilles heel, but that was bumped up. I mean, his conditioning was improved 25%. Good enough to get him into a mix for the top 5. That's a guy I'd like to see do more shows where he can, hone his talent. And I don't know who he works with, but they can try some different things or maybe try less things. We'll get into that later when we get into Baywatch. But he's a good talent. I like On. He's a good guy.
Yeah, and hopefully this show maybe was a little bit of an eye opener for him. Even just showing up in a little bit better shape than he's used to.
Sure.
Coming in that spot that he came in at, where you got 5th, right?
Correct.
Yeah, to come in at 5th place in just like good conditioning, it's got to be like, this motivator. Well,
Sure.
What if I really, really nail it? Then what can I do? And, he's one of these guys where he's kind of, I'm going to put him in the same category as Lionel Bayaki, not in the genetically gifted category quite like Lionel, but that we seem to be talking about him missing the mark over and over and over again. It's not like he's really good at one show and then he's off another. He's consistently off. So it would be nice to see him flip that switch and start being consistently on, and hopefully this wasn't just kind of a one-time thing, and hopefully he takes this placing and uses that motivation to be better and come back maybe later in the year. We have the Frigno show. There's a couple of post-Olympia shows, or even next year, and really nail it. I mean, his physique looks very fresh. I don't know how old he is, but he definitely doesn't have any glaring injuries or weaknesses or anything that says aging bodybuilder about him. So I still think there's plenty of time for him.
Yeah, he's still got a fresh-looking physique, and I expect bigger things from him. I'm with you, David. I hope this proves his motivation and provides some motivation that look, man, I improved a little bit, and I was in the top 5 of a pro show. I can win one of these things.
Absolutely.
Just make some proper changes. The 212. There's only really one story here, with all due respect to everybody. This didn't surprise a lot of people, but Derek Lunsford came in. Now, obviously, for those who were following the bouncing ball, Derek won the USA just a few weeks ago. So he's the newest pro that we got. Decided to pop into here a week after the show. Boom. Wins the 212. Now going to the Olympia. Has anybody more of a lock for Rookie of the Year, David, than Derek Lunsford?
No, absolutely not. I mean, this kid has gone from a welterweight, winning his class at Junior Nationals in 15, to winning the overall at Junior Nationals in 16 as a middleweight, to a light heavyweight USA champion, to a 212 IFBB Pro champion. I mean, this kid is skyrocketing as much as anybody I can recall seeing. And he's really good. Somebody posted, I posted a picture of Derek, and I was trying to be very nice to people in their comments. And somebody's like, well, with some time, and if he stays injury-free, this kid could be good. And I'm like,
what?
What are you talking about? He could be good. He just won his pro show. He could be good in time. Like, no, he's already really, really good.
He kind of passed good a while back.
One of the things that we always have to be careful with in bodybuilding is trying to hype the young bodybuilders too much, because we put a lot of pressure on the younger guys because we want to see the next, Kevin Levrone, turn pro and get second at the Olympia next year. But as is, I don't think that it's very far-fetched to say Derek can be a first call-out guy at the Olympia if he shows up a little bit sharper than he was in Tampa. If we look at him structurally as a bodybuilder, he's got a lot of muscle. He really doesn't have any weak body parts. A lot of times with some of the new pros, they turn around, they're lacking a little bit of thickness in the back, or maybe their thighs aren't where they need to be. It's hard to pick Derek's physique apart at all. I mean, he could be a little bit sharper than he was, but other than that, I think he's primed and ready to go on bigger stages, and we're going to see that in 5.5 weeks. And I tell you what, I think if he shows up razor sharp at the Olympia, I think he'll be in the first call out.
Listen, I don't think there's any question. Now, the reason he wasn't razor sharp here was I talked to him a little bit at the show. He bumped up to like 220 something after the USA. Now, probably a little bit too much celebrating the night after. Listen, you can't fault the kid. I mean, he just won the USA. I don't know if Tampa was on the radar initially or if it was an afterthought. Listen, Monday morning might have come in and says, you know what, not for nothing, but so this kid had to bring it down dramatically to make 212. Now that's a lot of rebound, a lot of water weight. As anybody who's competed knows, a lot of people rebound. Some people rebound worse than others. So he could be one of those guys. I don't know, but listen, he made it work. He got in there. If I'm going to put him in the same exact category as Josh earlier in the program, if he shows up like he did in Tampa, he'll be in the second or third call out.
Yeah,
you ain't going to stand next to Flex Lewis and Jose Raymond and crew, and with that look. Now, again, all due respect, this is the Olympia. These guys are not messing around. They're the best of the best, and they've got muscle maturity on Derek. If there's just one thing I could point a finger at, that's about it. This kid drops down again, and he just needs a little bit of time. He can come in right at the top of the key, right about 212. And I'm telling you, I'm with you. He will absolutely be in that. He will be pushing somebody out of that top 5. No question, my prediction right now.
No arguments here. And I think we should definitely note, although he didn't win, Jacob Wilson. Jacob won the heavyweights at USA's, got his pro card. And I feel a little bit bad for Jacob because he's got such a phenomenal physique and he's done such big things that he's gotten overlooked a little bit by Derek. But I mean, for Jacob to come out of the heavyweights and obviously at the USA's, the heavyweights is a pretty broad category. You're going from 198 all the way up to 225. We've seen guys win right at 225. We've seen guys like Aaron Clark win at 203 pounds. And Jacob is one of those guys who was razor sharp at the Olympia as a heavyweight. Obviously, he felt like to start his pro career off, 212 was a good spot. And he came in and got second place. So for as much talk as there is about Derek Lunsford, I definitely think that we should be acknowledging Jacob Wilson to come off a USA win. And, you look at how good Derek is. And Derek is damn good. And you say, okay, well, let's just hypothetically take Derek out of the mix.
Right.
Well, you're talking about the same story. A kid who just turns pro, and 6 days later he would have won the 212. So I think it was a great weekend for up-and-comers, a good weekend for the bodybuilding fans. I thought some of the Korean guys, Kim Jun-ho and Namun Cho would have brought it a little bit more. It wasn't we're seeing a little bit of an aging version of Sami Al-Haddad. But with Father Time always trying to kick you in the butt, that's something that's going to happen. And so I don't want to say out with the old and in with the new, but Sammy's kind of seems like he's on the downslide a little bit. But we got guys like Jacob and Derek coming in.
Yeah. So. People tend to discount how long Sammy's been around. He's not a newcomer. He's been around for some years. God bless him. He came in. He looked sharp. He looked good. His only problem is he had 2 guys that just happened to be better than him on the stage. There was no controversy there. I had it a solid 1, 2, 3. Now, with that, I will say, Jacob looked better than Derek Saturday night. He was in better shape. Now,
Jacob was sharp.
He was in better condition. Now, again, it was not a runaway for Derek. I mean, it was close, and I talked to Jacob about that a little bit. He's kind of laughing it off a little bit, like, man, I can't get out of this guy's shadow, But he was equally quick to say that, listen, he's a good friend of mine. I root him on, actually. Apparently they're good friends.
Sure.
But, listen, he didn't really mind. Obviously, he knows he's in good company there. But, yeah, he's going to do well, too. He's going to be a future 212 contender. Sammy was good. The rest of the crew was a very good 212 class. And obviously all the classes were represented there. Jennifer Taylor, actually, and I only bring this up, we don't normally cover the women's stuff, but she actually won the Tampa Pro last year in figure. And qualified for the Olympia. This year she switched to physique and won the Tampa Pro and qualified for the Olympia. So I'm not so sure anybody's ever done that, especially back-to-back years, but congratulations to Jennifer.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good transition, and we see some of these girls that are borderline figure women's physique where they have great structure but maybe a little bit too much muscle, and she was able to make a great transition. And if we are going to talk about other divisions, I would also like to bring up Sheila Black winning her 3rd Tampa Pro.
Just going there. Absolutely.
And she comes out in just phenomenal condition. I know she took a little bit of time off a few years ago for some personal stuff, came back in a major way. She's won Tampa 3 years in a row, a phenomenal competitor, one of the best posers you're going to see on any stage. And yeah, it was great seeing her get another win, but even cooler seeing that she got a three-peat in Tampa, because that's not easy to do.
No, it certainly ain't. And I've known Sheila for many, many years. She qualifies for the Wings of Strength World Championships. That's coming up first week of September, I believe, 9th.
Yep.
I think it is. And listen, for those that are women bodybuilding fans and all that, here's the bottom line: that is a perfect representative of what you should be looking for when it comes to women's bodybuilding.
She's phenomenal. She's got great aesthetics.
Yeah.
You don't look at her and think like she's overly muscular, but she's definitely she's just put together really well, and she presents her physique very graciously, and she comes in great conditioning. She's got good detail, good separation. I mean, so there's a lot of genetics at play there, but there's certainly an equal amount of hard work, and to be able to do that 3 years in a row says a lot about her as a competitor. But I agree with you 100%. I mean, she's one of those girls where if you're a female bodybuilder looking at, what do I need to do to be placing well in this sport? Well, take a look at Sheila Black.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you guys want your sport to thrive. You want an opportunity to, get this back in the map, so to say, and get, you see that this little groundswell of people that are fans of female bodybuilding that's, we got to bring this back. And there's your winner. There she is, with all due respect to the other contenders, okay? Put her in the winner's circle. That's going to help things a whole lot of a direction that you should be looking for. Like you said, she's not too much, she's not too that. She's not over the top. Phenomenal poser and presenter. She's got a dance background, which you can certainly tell.
Absolutely.
Years and years of dance in her background, which comes out in her posing and her presentation. But that's a direction that you're going to want to be looking, people. So, speaking of directions, David, it is time for Baywatch.
Baywatch. I got a Baywatch tank top.
Bro, we are down to DEFCON 1.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah, I got 10 days left, so I'm in crunch time. I'm in the best shape of my life, so regardless, one way or another, I mean, like we said last time we talked, trust me, I'm going there to win. But it feels good. I mean, the last couple of preps, I wasn't real happy with my look, and now I'm looking in the mirror, and when you get to where I'm at as far as body fat wise, which I guess I wouldn't have known previously because I'm my leanest, right. I'm starting to see changes on a daily basis, which are exciting. You're posing. Sure. I'm posing twice a day, every day, like looking in the mirror, like I didn't see that 3 days ago. So it's been a really cool experience. I'm pretty beat throughout the course of the days. So that was to be expected, though, with really pushing the envelope as far as conditioning for me. But I'm excited to get back on stage. There's going to be some good competition, and Wisconsin's not necessarily known to be the most competitive state in bodybuilding. And sometimes the state championships are a little bit hit or miss. I've seen very good years. The first 2 years I did it in 2003, the guy who won it in 2003 won the heavyweights at North Americans 2 years later, TJ Shaneborn, went from Mr. Wisconsin to 9th place at the USA's to winning the North Americans. And then I took some time off from the Wisconsin. I came back in 2006. A gentleman by the name of Chad LeCount showed up. He got second at juniors that year, won juniors the next year, then placed top 5 at the USA's, I believe, for 2 or 3 years in a row. And then I did again in 2010. The guy who won it was placed in top 10 nationally. So, but there's been years where it's hit or miss, and I've run into some good competition there. I won it in 2012, and knowing who's going to be there right now, I don't know of a lot of people that are going to be there, but I'm definitely going to be facing some really good competition. Being that Wisconsin is a smaller state as far as the bodybuilding community, I know most of the guys that I'm going against. I'm pretty good friends with them, so. I definitely want to beat them and then shake their hand after. But it's not going to be an easy win for me by any means. But if somebody's going to beat me, I feel like they're going to have to be pretty good. And sure. If it's one of my boys that shows up and they get the upper hand on me, then I guess then it is what it is. But we'll find out on the 19th. So
well, here's the beauty of it, David. Now you've restructured some thinking on your preps. You have a surprisingly simple formula for easing your way into the show.
Yeah, I tell you what, I've made the mistakes, and I tell the people around here, it's like I've screwed up so many times because I've gotten inside my own head, and I think a lot of that has to do with I was never really exactly where I wanted to be. When you're at like 95%, you're always looking for that little thing you can do to make yourself a little bit better. But when you're really happy with how you look, then you get to this point where it's like, well, I mean, I really feel like I could get on stage tomorrow or right now as I sit, just get up out of my chair and be very competitive. So it's the first time in a long time that I've competed where I feel like I'm ready right now. I'll be ready tomorrow. I'll be ready the next day. So I don't feel like I have to do anything crazy the last couple of days. And it's a good spot to be in. I'm still not sleeping the best at night. Late night nerves.
It goes with the territory.
Playing out the whole show in my head. But as far as feeling good with where I'm at, and for me, a lot of guys know this. Like, I'm not much for progress pictures, just usually because I'm my own worst critic, and I really just don't want people to see what I look like. But for me to even put a couple progress pictures out there, I was like, you know what, I feel pretty good, and I've had some people ask for them, so. Just feeling confident enough to post a few pictures from 2 weeks and 10 days out. I mean, for me, might not sound like a big deal for a lot of people, but for me, it was a good confidence booster for me, and we'll find out.
Well, so, one more installment of Baywatch, that of course is next week, and we will be just days away from your triumphant return. The Prodigy returns.
The Prodigy returns. Well, Prodigy's going to have a tough road ahead of him, courtesy of a couple of good guys here from Wisconsin. But like I said, we'll find out on the 19th. So. All
right. Well, speaking of shows, David, next week, the last chance. Well, this week I should say this coming weekend, the Last Chance Saloon
for everybody.
This is for everybody. This is it.
Wasn't Tampa the cutoff? No, this is the cutoff.
No. This is the cutoff coming up.
This weekend was the cutoff. Never mind. Tampa was the cutoff for men's open. There's my diet brain.
Yeah.
Tampa was the cutoff for men's open bodybuilding.
San Antonio Pro, another Tim Gardner production. So God bless Tim, man. He talk about getting no sleep. He just put out his biggest show of his career, and then he's got the San Antonio Pro the next week in a different state. Now there are two pro categories. There's figure and women's physique. And he's got a pretty good NPC count up there, so it's going to be a good show. But yeah, this is it for the ladies, man. I mean, we are literally there. We are going to be 5 weeks away from the Olympia, and that's it, man. It's time to rock.
I tell you what, I was down there 2 years ago. I love San Antonio. We were down at that hotel right on the river. If you haven't been into San Antonio, I suppose if you live in Texas and you're within driving distance of the show, you've probably been to San Antonio. I hate to sound like I'm not cultured, but if for some reason you do live in Texas or you are in the area, check it out. It's a great show. That river walk in San Antonio is absolutely beautiful, especially at night, all the restaurants and stuff. And I will tell you what, I saw for the first time in my entire life that I thought only existed in Bryan Adams songs. I saw a 5 and dime in San Antonio. Wow. I took a picture of it. Got my first real strict string, bought it at the 5 and dime.
There it is.
I'm walking downtown San Antonio, had a little bit of break, and sure as shit, a 5 and dime. Bryan Adams wasn't lying to me.
All right, truly you need some carbohydrates because you've lost your mind. The 5 and dime.
5 and dime. I've never seen one before. We don't have 5 and dimes here in Wisconsin. So.
Yeah, well, this because 5 and dime today would be $5 and $10, not 5 cents and 10 cents like it was back in the day. But
right.
Well, David, that's going to wrap things up for this week, man. It was a good week in bodybuilding. Like I say, we got 1 week to go, and we are at 5 weeks. We'll be starting our Olympia series
right after your show. To get the Olympia talk gets fired up next week.
Right after your show, after the big unveiling, after the coronation, the party, whatever else that we do. Celebrating the triumphant return of the prodigal son. We will turn our attention to the Olympia, of course, with a special 4-week one of those. 4-week series on the Olympia. And I tell you what, there's some good stuff brewing out there. We've seen pictures of Big Ramy. I saw new pictures of Big Ramy looking worse than the old pictures of Big Ramy. Now you got to wonder, where are these pictures coming from?
We'll get into that a little bit. Yeah. But there's talk that maybe Big Ramy is a little behind.
No, listen, absolutely not. Listen, this is gamesmanship, my friend, and that's what we're going to discuss. he ain't behind nothing. These guys are a little smarter than that. The camel crew,
They're pulling the old Phil Vizzacaro and posting
exactly.
old pictures.
Exactly.
The old,
Pulling something,
the old
right?
Phil Viz trick. 2 weeks out, post a picture from 8 weeks out.
That's what I would do. But
Come
we'll talk
on.
more about that next week. But all right, David, that's going to wrap things up for this installment of The Last Rep. For David Bay, I'm Bob Chick. We're out.